My name's Josh. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Josh.
Geez, I'm nervous. It's kind of like I get an opportunity to talk about myself for an hour, and I do not want to do it, and I don't want to be here, you know. And I know that there's got to be some kind of change there, because in active addiction or active alcoholism, if someone said, Josh, we're going to give you an hour to speak about your favorite subject, I would have been absolutely, sounds good. Because it would have been all about me. A whole hour, all about me. Would have been wonderful. So the program does work. Yeah, I guess share about how it was, what happened, and how it is now. I don't know. I was always a dreamer. You know, I kind of grew up, and my head was always in the clouds. I didn't really have any idea of what was going on for people around me, or my family, or anything like that. Because yeah, it was kind of, I saw life through my eyes, and it was always about me, you know. And I don't know when or how it happened, but somewhere along the lines of kind of growing up, I picked up this idea that life should be easy, you know, that life should be, you know, all about me getting what it is that I need, and I shouldn't really have to work for it. You know, I'm kind of special and different, and everything should kind of be given to me, you know. And that's how I started. That's how I started my journey in life. And from a young age, when things kind of didn't go my way, I learned some very valuable character defects, I guess, or some very valuable tools to kind of get my way. If I didn't get my way, I would throw temper tantrums, or I would manipulate or blame, and I kind of got away with murder because I grew up in a big family. I had 3 older sisters and a younger brother, so I could kind of get away with lots of murder because they were, you know, the focus was on everyone else. But I remember growing up with just lots of fear, just lots and lots and lots of fear, you know, fear of everything, fear that I was going to be found out, fear that I was different to everybody else, fear that I couldn't do what everyone else, you know, around me seemed to be doing with like such ease, just lots and lots of fear. And I learned from a young age that if I lied and I was just dishonest about where I was and what was going on for me, that no one would notice. No one would notice, you know. And I did well. I did well at that. I learned how to lie. It was a lot of hard work, but I learned how to do it properly, you know. And I thought that it was going to work for me. And it did. You know, it kind of did for many years. I remember, I think I was about 16, and I had my 2 best friends, David and Steve. And I remember the first time that we drank. It was one of those cheap bottles of vodka, and lots of sachets of vodka sachets as well, because it's all we could afford. And I remember drinking for the first time, and from the moment that I kind of picked up alcohol, and from the moment that I started drinking, I kind of drank till complete blackout. That was how I was, you know. I remember my 2 friends. They were kind of, yeah, they were rolling around on the floor, and they were puking and throwing up and stuff like that, and just hating the experience. And I mean, I was doing the same. But I remember waking up the next day and going, that was amazing. Like I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I want more of that. You know, I want to get off, and I've always just wanted to get off. You know, doing life on life's terms, or just doing life in general, has really not been anything that interested me. It really hasn't. Taking responsibility, or getting a job, or paying bills, or SARS, or whatever, I don't know. Like that whole adulting thing, or that whole responsibility thing, I've not been interested. I was never interested in it. All I wanted to do was live my life the way I wanted to live it, and I wanted to get off, is what I wanted. And I wanted to have lots of fun in the process. And that's how I lived, most of my life before coming into recovery. problem is and I mean, it's only in hindsight, but, you know, when life didn't go my way, I was angry. You know, I had lots of anger growing up. And I remember seeing my first psychologist at age 18, which was wonderful because, again, I got to speak about my favorite subject for like a whole hour, you know. And I remember sitting down in front of the psychologist and we were talking about my anger issues, you know. And by the end of the session, we both kind of came to the agreement that the reason why I was so angry was because of my father, which was no surprise. And this was just going to be a nice, safe space for me to come and talk about how the world had wronged me and how the world just wasn't, you know, very nice to me. So I loved her, and I loved her sessions, and it gave me a nice, plausible reason for me to carry on and be an arsehole for the next 11 years, you know, because I didn't get my way and I didn't get the parents that I thought that I believed I needed, which was kind of like, I didn't need a dad, I needed a bank, and I didn't need a mother, I just needed someone to give, although my mom's kind of close to this, just unconditional love, you know, everything I do is amazing. And that's how I wanted my life to be, you know. But I was angry, you know, I was angry. And I continued with that anger right up until coming into recovery. But I remember seeing my first psychologist at kind of like age 18. Because, I suppose everyone around me could kind of see that I was not okay, that there was something not okay with me. I couldn't see that. There was no ways that I could see it. As far as I was concerned, everyone else was kind of the problem, and if everyone would just listen and do as they told, then I would be happy, you know, and they weren't, and I was angry. I was angry when they weren't doing what it is I thought they should do, and how they should be. So I didn't know it at the time, but I was, you know, I was kind of set off in a path of seeing lots of psychologists and lots of psychiatrists for all of these emotions that I kind of thought were the problem. You know, I hid the one thing that made me happy for my whole life. Really, I hid it from everyone, and that was my drinking and my using, because that was the one thing that made me happy. It was the one thing that got me off, and I was not going to give that up for anything. You know, so when it ever came close to my life falling apart or my life becoming completely unmanageable, when it really came down to it, there was the one thing that I was never going to give up. It was always going to be, you know, everything else needed to be looked at, but I certainly wasn't going to give up drinking and using. And in true sort of, I don't know, my style, things always fall apart very quickly for me. So I picked up my first real alcoholic drink at the age of 16, and at the age of 19 I was done. I was done already. By that stage I was drinking, I was using drugs as well. I remember vividly waking up. I was 19 years old, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's just blood everywhere in my bed. Just blood everywhere. It was coming out of my nose, it was coming out of everywhere, and I was not in a good way already at age 18. And my thinking around that was at the time was, well, the reason why I am the way I am is because I'm originally from a little town called Benoni in the East Rand, and those people are not my people. They're a little rough around the edges. I'm more of a Cape Townian type of guy. You know, I'm a little bit more cosmopolitan than those, you know, those ruffians, as my mom would put it. So it wasn't the area for me. I was a Cape Town guy, and I cringe at how I did things. You know, I remember kind of booking a ticket to Cape Town, and my parents came back from work, and my mom and dad came back from work, and I said, no, I'm moving to Cape Town. And they went, when? And I went at 3 o'clock. I'm leaving. There's a flight. You know, and my old man went off. You know, because all he kind of wanted for me was just like, you know, just be consistent, get a job, and get on with your life and live it. You know, which I thought I was doing. And I left all my problems behind, according to me. And I went down to Cape Town, And I'll never forget, I remember arriving in Cape Town, and it's a cosmopolitan place, and I was like, I've arrived. This is for me. This is where I should have been my whole life, you know. Unfortunately, wherever I went with. So all my problems started all over again. You know, the moment I picked up alcohol in Cape Town, and the moment that I kind of, just found drink, because drink's been there throughout my whole, you know, active alcoholism or active addiction. It doesn't really matter. When I couldn't find drugs, I drank. It was how it was, and I was determined. It was the first time in my life, because of that experience I had when I was 19. It was the first time in my life that I was determined to kind of do things differently, and not drink, or certainly not use. Drink was a problem for me at that stage in my head, but I certainly wasn't going to drug. And I picked up alcohol, and within 3 months, my life was equally as unmanageable as it had been in Benoni. For me, the kind of places I go when I listen to my head, the wonderful experiences that I have when I listen to me and my great thinking, is I always end up alone in my room wanting to kill myself. That's the place where I end up, unfortunately. So I picked up when I was 16, and I got to that place by age 19. You know, all of my friends at 19, they were kind of out doing what 19-year-olds do, and that's going out and, I don't know, whatever non-alcoholic 19-year-olds do. They go out and have fun and get into relationships and go clubbing and all of that, and I wasn't doing that. I was alone in my room drinking for blackout, you know. I started drinking at 16 and 19, I was there. And the progression was quick for me, because it just never let me go, never let me do anything. I moved down to Cape Town, and within 4 months I was alone in my room wanting to kill myself again. I came up with I thought was a different idea this time. Cape Townians don't like people from the East Rand. You know, they don't. They don't like the cosmopolitan people. They don't like people from Benoni, and they don't like the ruffians. So they were certainly the problem. It was the Cape Townians that were the problem. So I thought, if I go to the UK, you know, if I go to London is where it's all happening. You know, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to start my own business, and I'm going to become CEO of something, whatever. As long as I had that title, CEO, I was going to kind of be happy. So I moved to the UK with all of these kind of high hopes again, and I've never been able to live life successfully. Like not even from a young age. Like I've never been able to do simple things, like get a job, keep a job, don't get fired, pay rent, bath, you know, look after yourself, brush your teeth. That simple shit that everyone else seems to be able to do. I could never do that. And I moved to the UK, and yeah, like I had my dreams, but I had a few problems that I couldn't solve. You know, I couldn't solve those problems. There were lots of them. But one of the major ones was just drinking and drinking and drugging. And I kind of got there. I never got a job. I phoned my old man like every month to kind of pay rent. And within 4 or 5 months, I was back in my room alone, drinking and wanting to kill myself. And that cycle was my cycle. You know, I could tell you, because I don't want to talk too much about, you know, all the nonsense. But that was my cycle. No matter where I went in the world, no matter how long I was there, that was my cycle. I kind of was never able to keep a job. I always fell off the wagon. I ended up alone in my room wanting to kill myself. That was it. You know, everything was a complete failure for me from a young age. And how that all ended up was me back in Cape Town for the last time. This time I had managed to manipulate my father into buying me a Mexican restaurant, because I thought that was a restaurateur, and it was going to be my solution, you know. And again, I thought I had arrived, because I thought I had everything that I'd ever wanted in life. You know, I had a restaurant, I had a nice apartment overlooking Table Mountain, I had a car, and I was in a relationship with a married woman. For me, it was perfect. It was all I ever wanted. Just no commitment, and I could drink as much tequila as I wanted. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. You know, I I remember signing the contract for the restaurant and kind of waiting for the excitement to arrive and kind of waiting for some kind of sense of ease and comfort, which never arrived. I never got that feeling in life. I was never able to do things in life and go, oh, this is like I'm good, like I'm proud of this and experience that. I never got that out of life, ever. I did, however, get that the moment I picked up and used and drank. And I signed the contract for the restaurant, and 2 hours later I was completely off, because that's all I've really wanted to do, is get off. There were times when the drugs and alcohol were absolutely killing me physically, because I don't have a pancreas, which is a whole other story. And the doctor told me at age 18, Josh, if you drink again, you've got a serious chance of not making it. That was at age 18. And my party trick at that stage was, because when I had pancreatitis, I had a tube coming out of my stomach into a bag that I kind of wrapped around my leg. And my party trick was, if you drink a White Russian, you can actually see it go into my stomach and come out and into my bag. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So that was my party trick, you know. So the doctor tells me, Josh, you're going to die if you drink again, and I'm out doing that. I'm like, I've got the coolest thing to show you. Come look here. You know, so you, not okay from a young age, you know, not okay. You know, they talk about alcoholic thinking. That's my alcoholic thinking, you know. I don't know where I was going with all of that. But the last failure for me, really, and the last failure that I couldn't kind of face, I just couldn't face it, was the restaurant. You know, I had everything then. I had, like I said, you know, perfect relationship for me, restaurant, whatever, and it was about to go under, because I was just never there. People were stealing from me left, right, and center. I was drinking all the stock. At that stage, I was using enough drugs that I was hallucinating. I was in psychosis. I was running around the streets of Cape Town with bread knives trying to kill all the car guards. So I was not okay. You know, I was not okay. And the one thing that I could never face was that I was, you know, a failure. And I remember being in my flat again, alone. I was on like my last couple of days of binging, and all I wanted to do was die, because I could not phone my parents, I could not phone my family and go, listen, I'm in trouble again. I couldn't do that, you know. So I thought it's better for me to kind of check out. And I tried. I used, you know, lots of medication, which all the psychiatrists and psychologists had given me, because apparently I was narcissistic with, you know, all kinds of selfish tendencies, or I was bipolar as well. I've been given that one. I've been given ADHD, clinical depression. When I heard from my sponsor that I was just an arsehole, I was happy. I was like, wow, finally some good news, you know, because I can change that. I can change being an arsehole. I can't change being bipolar. If you got it, you got it. You know, if you're narcissistic, you don't even know you're narcissistic. So, you know, you can't change that. If I'm an arsehole, I can change that. Thank God. So that was good news. You know, that was great. That was great news. And I kind of remember trying to kill myself, and I kept waking up. And I remember the second last thing that went through my mind was, because there was a little bit of fight left in me. The second last thing that went through my mind was, Josh, just get up, put on some clean clothes, brush your teeth, go down to the restaurant, be there, and kind of do that for a couple of days, and everything will be okay. You'll kind of get the ball rolling. And the last thing that went through my mind was, no more. Can't do it anymore. Just give up. And I couldn't. I couldn't do it anymore. I was completely out of fight. Life had completely annihilated me. I was scared. I was fearful. I'd lost the ability to communicate with anything human, because I'd been living in my room so long. It was over for me. So I was kind of willing. I didn't know it at the time, but I was willing to just whatever. I'll just take any relief I can get. And the problem was the drugs and alcohol weren't giving me any relief anymore. That was a horrible place to be. And it's amazing kind of how God works or how life works, because 7 days later, actually no, I want to go back to that because it's a powerful place, it's a powerful part of my story. It's important for me not to know kind of how recovery works, if that makes sense. It's important for me because even at that moment, when I was in the darkest place I'd ever been, in the most desperate place I'd ever been, if God had ever come to my door, because he was a person, and went, listen, Josh, I've got a solution for you. I will take away all of that loneliness. I will take away all of that pain for you. I'll literally take away everything that's ever caused you any pain. Do you want it? And I would have gone, yeah, absolutely. And then he would have gone, okay, well, listen, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to send you to this place in the sugarcane fields, in a place you've never heard of called the Dudu. And what you're going to do there is you're going to feel like they are asking you to be a personal slave in the beginning. Then you're going to think that when you've got troubles and you go to the front office and you go to the front door and say, listen, like, I want to talk a little bit about me, they're going to go, no, we don't want to talk about you, go and help someone else. And then after that, don't worry, it's going to get better. We've got big plans for you, Josh. We've got, you're going to manage the whole pizza box folding section at Debonair's. Huge CEO of the pizza box folding section. You can manage that whole section if you want. And don't worry, it gets better, because while you're doing that, we're going to give you a uniform to do that. It's going to be a nice little black bow tie, which you're going to love. It's going to be great for your humility. And you're going to absolutely love the experience. But don't worry, it gets better. Then you're going to become a manager of the whole fish and chip shop. And through that all, you're going to find this thing called the 12 steps that's just going to give you, everything and more, and it's just going to be better than your wildest dreams. I would have gone, I think you're looking for the guy down at the next flat. He's seriously got a drinking problem. I've seen that guy. He's not okay. Because if it's up to me, and it's the one thing I love about the 12 steps is thank God that the solution is not based on my acceptance. Thank God. Because if the solution was based on my acceptance, then you would get better by lots of people giving you lots of money, or lots of affirmation or whatever. Because if that was the solution, I'm up for it. If there's an easier, softer way for me to do life, I'm up for it. I never wanted to do all the hard work. It wasn't my style. I was built for comfort. You know what I mean? And so thank God the solution wasn't based on my acceptance, because I ended up in treatment, having to learn about who I was, because I know that I started, talking earlier about me being my favorite subject. That is true. That is true. And then it was because of my self-obsession, that my ability to see how I was and the pain that I dished out to everyone around me and the hurt that I caused, and the arsehole that I was, I just couldn't see it. I just could not see it. And it took, I don't know what that saying is, it takes a whole village to raise an idiot. I think that's the saying. Well, it takes a whole concern group to get through my massive ego, because I just cannot see it, and thank God for those concern groups, because I had the whole house saying, you don't listen to anyone, Josh. You think you're smarter than everyone else. You kind of become CEO of Cedars already, and you're telling everyone what to do, and you don't listen to anyone, And more than once, I needed to sit in that group, and I needed to hear that, because my initial response to that type of attack on my ego is, you're jealous. Let's be honest. It's the only way that this would be, that I'd end up in this situation, is if you're jealous. And it's horrible to say that, That's what I was thinking. But that's what I was thinking, and that's what's going through my head, you know. And it's amazing though, because at that same time I was kind of working on step 2, which is about the insanity. And I was happy to accept that my life was unmanageable, but I wasn't really happy to accept that I was insane. You know, I didn't believe that. And it took concern group after concern group after concern group after concern group after concern group, and lots of pain and lots of sleepless nights and lots of me tossing and turning in my bed thinking, you know, this is not a nice place to be. You know, these people, those people in that office are out to get me, you know. But when the penny drops, it's kind of, it's horrible, you know, because the one thing that I couldn't kind of shy away from was my life was a mess. My life was unmanageable. I'd never really amounted to anything worthy of talking about. I'd heard all of those things that the people in concern group were saying about me for years and years and years and years and years, and I just couldn't face it. I couldn't face up. I couldn't face it. And it's what needed to happen. I kind of needed to face up to the truth. And the moment that I could see that, the moment I could see what everyone was talking about through working my steps, it hurt like hell. It really hurt. And I kind of remember just wanting to go to my room and cry because of me realizing the truth about how I was, how selfish I had been, and the things I had done. And, you know, I wanted to get away from that as quickly as possible. I just wanted to get off again. And it's amazing how the program works, though, because the program works in spite of me. It really works in spite of me. Because the one thing I kind of was always willing to do when I came into treatment was out of absolute pure fear of going back to the place where I was I was willing to follow just a few simple instructions, you know. And everyone in the house kind of carried me through, and my sponsor carried me through, and that's kind of how it still is today, you know. I was so passionate about the fact that I had found the 12 steps and I had found another way of living, that I didn't have to live in that place of just absolute fear and anxiety and complete failure all the time. I was so passionate about the fact that there's this new way to live that I kind of left treatment guns blazing. I left treatment guns blazing. I was like, I've got this brand new way of life, and I'm going to go and tell everybody that this is how you should be living life. I'm going to tell the people that want to know. I'm going to tell the people that don't want to know. And you know, that's how it's going to be. So my first year was mad. You know, it was absolutely insane. I was going to meetings. I was telling people, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, and that's how you should be living your life. And you haven't seen those character defects yet, and you shouldn't be looking at me that way. That's not okay. Communication banned between me and you, and you need to leave your girlfriend because, you know, she's very faulty. And oh, geez, like I cringe to kind of look back at how I was in my first year. I think I did almost more damage in my first year of recovery than I did in active addiction. I certainly created more resentments towards people in my first year of recovery than I had done in most of my active addiction. I was so resentful to everyone in the fellowship because you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing, according to me. And it's amazing, though, because in my first week of being out of treatment, I kind of got like 4 or 5 invites to browse. And then in my second month, I kind of got like 3 invites to kind of browse. And then after 6 months, like 1 invite to a browse. And then after like my first 9, 10 months out of treatment, I got 0 invites to a browse. And I was back in my room watching gospel channels, you know, back in my flat. It was a horrible place to be. And, you know, thank God for the fellowship, because it took a good friend to kind of sit me down, and as subtle as people in AA can be, she sat me down and she went, Josh, you're an absolute arsehole. And you've been behaving like one, and it's not okay, you know. And it kind of, the reason why I share my first year in recovery is because it's the truth. But because somehow along the way I realized that you can't just go to meetings and just rock up and leave, and somehow I'm going to get recovery through osmosis. I can't just phone my sponsor and go, oh, no, listen, I stole something, and I'd just like to own it, and put the phone down and go and do it again. Like, I actually have to change. I actually have to go and work the steps. Just coming to meetings and trying to tell myself, just stay away from the first drink is going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. That's not okay. That's not true. It wasn't my truth. I tried that my first year. I tried you just go to meetings, but I've actually got to go and live it. I've actually got to go back and make amends, and I've got to look at my part, and I've got to go back and own all my stuff. And I've got to learn how to live, I've got to learn how to live. And again, thank God the program is as powerful as it is, because 18 months later, I kind of woke up and I realized for the first time in my whole life that I'm sober. And that was incredible. I don't know how I missed that. But I'd been sober 18 months. I hadn't been fired. I hadn't been, I did. I stole money only once from a meeting for smokes. But I was sober. I was kind of sober, and that was something that I couldn't believe. In spite of myself, the program worked. To the best of my ability, I asked, listened, and did as I was told. To the best of my ability. I didn't get it right. I got things horribly wrong. But to the best of my ability, I asked, I did and did as I was told, And like I said, in spite of me, 18 months later, I was sober, And that, for the first time, that kind of dawned on me that there's hope. I didn't have much hope that my life was going to be different. I share about the pizza box folding, Steban's story. The truth around that was I was kind of happy to just do that. I didn't want any more responsibility. I didn't want any high-flying job or any shit like that. I was just kind of happy. And the reason why I was happy, because I didn't want anything to come my way so that I could screw it up. And it would just be more confirmation and more affirmation that I'm a complete failure. So after 18 months, when I hadn't completely screwed things up, and I was still sober, and I had friends around me, and things were kind of going well, for the first time in my life, first time in my sobriety, I had hope. I had hope that life could be different, because I really didn't think things could be different before then. From that realization, or at least from that kind of moment on, geez, what an incredible recovery. It's I don't even know what to share. There's just been so much, so many amazing gifts of recovery. One of the greatest gifts of recovery, and I did say that I was going to say it exactly like that, because she is going to listen to the share. I did meet someone, which is a miracle, because no one meets anyone in Scottsboro. So I know that my higher power is working overtime for me. I went to a fellowship function, and I bumped into the boss's daughter. Everyone knows. I'm not going to jump around. I'm not going to dance around the issue. I bumped into the boss's daughter, and I fell in love. She's just the most incredibly beautiful woman that I'd ever seen. Sorry. But I don't know how to do life. I don't know how to do things sober. I don't know. I'm still learning, but even right at the beginning of 2 years sobriety, I don't know. So I put on my best. I don't know what it was. I was a mumbling idiot, really, is what I was. I remember her coming over to me and going, hi, my name's Katie, and I was like, And then thank God there was someone else that I knew next to her, because I was just completely blanked after, okay, thanks, and then went and go and spoke to her. So thank God she grew up around alcoholics, because she knows the insanity and she knows the madness, and I'm sure she spotted it in me a mile away. So, thank God for the program, and thank God for the people around me, because I needed to rely on the whole village just to kind of phone her back, and go, hi, I'm Josh. Do you remember me? It's like, Apparently, non-alcoholic people can do that with ease. I can't do that with ease. I've got to phone my sponsor, get his experience. I've got to go and speak to 7 people in the fellowship, get their experience. I've got to stand in front of the mirror and repeat what it is I've been told to do, word for word, for the next 7 hours. Change clothes, because it makes a huge difference when you're walking around talking to someone on the phone, just to go and make that phone call. You know, I know there's that joke that goes. You know, if someone breaks down on the side of the road, a non-alcoholic phones a tow truck, but the alcoholic's got to phone his sponsor first, and the sponsor tells him to phone the tow truck. You know, and that's my experience. That's been my experience in my recovery. Is I've had to rely on my sponsor and the meetings and everyone around me to kind of get through life, and I'm so grateful for that, because without them, without the fellowship, without my sponsor, without all the help, I wouldn't even be in a relationship today. And I say that's a gift of recovery because it was, you know, I met Katie and I was in love, and thank God for, you know, like I said, for the program, because I could deal with my insanity and I could kind of be in the relationship and move forward. But the one thing that kind of stands out for me is I remember traveling to the UK, because that's where she lives. And I'd only been in sobriety about, I don't know, 25 months, 26 months, which is nothing. I was a baby. And I kind of remember, you know, being at her house, and we woke up in the morning, and she's got 2 daughters, Lucy and Layla, also 2 beautiful girls. And I remember them like kind of coming through to the room and saying good morning and stuff like that. And I was making, you know, I went and made tea and toast and stuff like that. And I remember just kind of sitting there and thinking, like, I don't deserve this. Like, how am I here? You know, 2 years ago, I was alone in my room, not connected to anything, literally trying to kill myself, taking as many tablets as possible and drinking as much as possible to check out. And in spite of myself and in spite of my insanity, 2 years later, I'm surrounded by, you know, this beautiful woman, her kids, people that love me, friends. I've got a job. It's just like the gifts were insane. And again, you know, my recovery has just been, it's been a series of me realizing, oh, hang on, I'm actually the luckiest guy alive, if I think about it. Because, like I said, 2 years later, I couldn't even brush my teeth. That was a huge task for me, and now I've managed to kind of have all of these things come my way and not screw it up, you know. And yeah, it was like again, it was another defining moment for me that I always like to share, because it was absolute gift of recovery that came my way. I kind of want to talk a little bit about my family, because I've heard so many times in so many people's shares, and I've heard it all over, that, you know, alcoholism is a family disease. And part of getting better is dropping old ideas, you know, getting rid of old ideas. And one of the ideas that I've always carried with me is that if my family is a good family, you know, and it's not that they're not, it was just I was not willing to have a look at the truth that it's a family disease, and the whole family gets affected, you know, by my behavior and how I am. Because I'm 6 years into my recovery, and the majority of my family will not speak to me. They will not speak to me. My mother speaks to me. Everyone else in the family will not speak to me, you know, and sometimes I get resentful about that, and I've got to phone my sponsor, and I've got to work through the program, you know, and I've got to work through my resentments, and I've got to put in lots of effort and go back to basics to kind of get over there. But it's a part of my story that I need to share, because it's a powerful truth. You know, I know what it's like to kind of be wrapped up in anger all the time, and my family are so angry with me, and I get why. You know, I get why to the best of my ability. I don't think I could ever wrap my head around the amount and the depth of pain that I've caused. But I understand for the majority of my life, because I was the most important person in my life, that I didn't see the pain I was kind of dishing out to them. I didn't even recognize it, you know, and they spent their whole lives kind of making sure I was okay. And all I ever kind of gave back in return was a sense of entitlement and arrogance, and that's what I kind of dished out, you know. And they hurt. They are hurt by that, and even today they hurt by that. And you know, my wish for them is that they can kind of be released from their anger, because I know it's not nice to be in that place, because I lived in that place for a long time in active alcoholism, and it almost killed me, you know. But it's a family disease, and I wish I had the power. I wish I had the power to relieve them of that, but I don't. The only thing that I can do is keep doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and keep living sober, and keep working the program to the best of my ability. That one day I will have the opportunity to make amends for the hurt that I've caused, because I'm very willing to do that if it comes my way, you know. And that's all that's important. I've realized in recovery is that I have the willingness to kind of go against my head and do what's necessary. Yeah, I've gone blank. Yeah, I've gone completely blank. What else? Oh yeah, amends. Kind of making amends. My amends in recovery. I mean, I had lots of amends to make. You know, I had so many opportunities that came my way in active alcoholism that were given to me that I completely annihilated. You know, the opportunity to study, instead of being in classroom studying with everyone else, I was with my best friend, you know, smoking weed and drinking up a storm. And I kind of threw all those opportunities away. And I came into recovery, and the opportunity to make amends, they've kind of all found me. You know, I've been very lucky that amends have found me. I sit here today, and I had the opportunity to make amends with my studying. I sit here today, I've got a degree in psychology. I'm working on my honors in psychology. Making amends for being an absolute muppet and never really being a friend. What I'm hoping for after my share is the people that I call friends share back at me and go, Josh, you're a friend. If not, I'll sort them out later. You know, yeah, thank God for the program, because I've had to work at being a friend. You know, I've had to work at being a friend. You know, there's still some things that I can't see and things I've got to work on. Sometimes I get told I'm abrasive and forward and stuff like that, and I can't see it. You know, I can't see it. Can't see it. I know Neville's staring at me right now. But that's, you know, those are things that I kind of, that I've had to continuously work on in my recovery. The gifts of recovery have kind of, I don't know, they've kind of come my way in areas that I never would have looked at, and I never would have thought it was about, you know. And if someone said to me again when I was like in active alcoholism, Josh, that you're going to find the greatest sense of relief and the greatest sense of freedom through working the program and taking responsibility for your life, I would have laughed, because it was the one thing that I never wanted. I never wanted responsibility. It's not what I wanted. I didn't want to look after anyone else or try to be a friend or anything like that. I just wanted to look after me, because I thought that I'm the most important person in the world. I need to look after me and my happiness. You know, I've got sponsees that I'm extremely grateful for. And I'm extremely grateful to be a part of their journey, you know, and they phone me up and they say, listen, Josh, I'm struggling with a few things. And it's in times like that where I'm hugely grateful for what it is I've been through in the past. Because all of those times that I was a complete failure, all of those times that I did things incorrectly, all of those times that I only thought about myself, you know, it gave me now a wealth of experience of what not to do. You know, a wealth of experience in that area, and I'm just extremely, you know, grateful that you know, another person can phone me and say, listen, Josh, can you help me out? You know, I need a little bit of guidance with something, because that's not me. You know, that's not me. The one thing that AA has given me is it's given me a completely different way of life. It's given me the opportunity to finally kind of become somebody that I always thought I was, and maybe always wanted to be, and that's someone who's like, to the best of my ability, reliable and consistent, and takes responsibility, and gives back to the best of my ability. And for that, I really am extremely grateful that the program has given me the opportunity to do that. So I think I'm mumbling now a little bit. So I think, yeah, that's it. Thanks for letting me share.